But let's presuppose then that there were sightings by the indigenous for
they had
a long time.
It was just like, hey, that's the guy in the woods. That was just their neighbor, essentially.
Just maybe fully integrated into their everyday kind of like mindset rather than a phenomena. It was like a known obscure encounter.
And what's sad is these indigenous accounts of all these strange animals, whether it's the skinwalkers or Bigfoot or the Thunderbird, to them, these are real animals.
Sure.
This is not mythology.
No.
This is not a legend for them. This is like saying, the local university saying Bigfoot's not real, and the Native American populations are saying, hey, we've known about the Yowie and the Sasquatch and all these variations all through America. I think the only state that doesn't have a Bigfoot sighting is Hawaii. So you have 49 states where
pretty strong evidence there.
And it's, a lot of it's firsthand accounts, though. It's eyewitness accounts, which in a court of law are extremely shaky.
I know, but it still shows some serious,
And the argument is, where's the video? Where's the photos? So a lot of video that's been captured and the photos, and they're just grainy. People aren't rolling with gear like what we have.
I'm just saying from the aspect of nobody's even made a verbal report and tried to embellish a story in Hawaii. That kind of gives credence to the fact that maybe people that are making the claims and reports aren't making them up. Especially when they, stand by their stories.
Some of them are total horseshit. No doubt about it.
Absolutely.
But
let me tell you what.
Police officers and in the case of this Minerva Monster in 1978, this family didn't want the entire national news coming down to their, to Paris Township. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So we'll get into that.
I think with a lot of genuine stories, that is kind of the feeling is people, A, never really asked for it.
Mm-hmm.
B, never asked for the, aftermath that would come.
Right.
And then, what did I go with A, B there? C, what do they do going forward?
Yeah.
Because, there's kind of like, some people get marked for life by, becoming, we talked about Woodrow Derenberger last week.
Yeah.
Or not last week, but in the last episode with the Mothman.
Yeah.
Didn't turn out so well for him.
No, Derenberger had a rough life. And that reminds me of this Caton family, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
And all those folks, I feel for them, definitely. They had a lot of courage to come out and talk about this stuff. And even, giving interviews even recently on a documentary that we'll talk about that too.
Okay.
And so the origins of the Grassman name come from a couple different things that we found.
Yeah.
The origin of the Grassman is that he ate tall grasses or had been seen eating wheat from farmers' fields.
And creating nests
and then,
out of tall grass.
The nest is the second one where they've seen these weird shelters that are made from these. So they're like weaving
thatch igloo.
Yeah, they're like these.
Like a mud
They're
hut.
like yurts. They're like grass yurts. They're circular in shape.
Like a really flat beach ball.
Yeah, there's
They're not.
That's how they're described.
The photo we saw.
Yeah,
it didn't look overly large as far as height wise. You wouldn't think that
there was somebody standing next to it. I could get a better idea of how big that thing is.
I'm estimating here.
There's no scale.
Yeah.
So there's nothing in the photo other than a bunch of trees and grass, and I don't know how far that tree is away or how big that diameter of that tree is.
Well, let's just even say maybe
it looks small to me in the photo.
What
it's like there ain't no 7-8 foot tall creature hanging out in that thing.
Let's say it this way: Sasquatch isn't that fancy. All he wants is a little dirt.
Of course.
Basically, it's like a giant sleeping bag for Sasquatch.
There you go. Maybe it's just super insulated, and that's all it is. He's not going to stand up in it. Maybe he's just getting in that little.
Well, let's jump species here to turtles. What do they do in the wintertime? They crawl up these, slides that they have in the sides of the water.
Are you admitting that Sasquatch is a real species of animal?
I don't know for certain. But if he is, that's his sleeping bag, is that little burrow. I'm going to say that because, I'll have to ask you, are there a lot of sightings or have there been a lot of sightings with multiple Sasquatch at once?
Yeah.
So, okay.
Smaller ones, which they perceived as children.
So maybe the Sasquatch sleeping bag / hut domicile is, maybe they, let's say it in multiple ways. Maybe he was single or she, or they kind of spread out until they start making their, so Because I would think you would see more than one at a spot.
They seem to be in more here in Ohio, in Washington State, California. A lot of those sightings are single Bigfoot. There's
one at a
here
time.
In Ohio. I guess a lot of the sightings are multiple women, children, big males, all kinds of different colors too: gray, white, brown, blackish brown. So a lot of different, 7 to 10 foot tall, 15 to 20 inch footprints, pigeon-toed, which I thought was kind of weird, flat-footed.
Pigeon-toed, huh?
350 to 800 pounds, growls, barks, breathes heavily, screams loud, like a woman's screech at night.
I've listened to some of the
screams,
vocal recordings.
Wide shoulders, bipedal, hair covering the face.
Yeah.
So like literally hair right down to the eyebrows and then coming all the way up to the lips. So it's hard to kind of see what they look like underneath all that hair.
You ever seen a special services operator wearing a ghillie suit?
Yeah.
I mean,
and people fake a lot of Bigfoot videos with those ghillie suits.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
But let's say for the Sasquatch's integumentary system, that wrath of hair not only is unkempt and wild looking, but also serves as a very nice way to break itself up visually in the medium of the forest.
Right.
It just stops moving. Because I'm going to say this. I mean, I've seen bear in the wild.
Mm-hmm.
And the animals can be right in front of you.
Yeah, they blend right in.
It's not Nat Geo. It's not framed in a picture. So there again, that description of its overall appearance and size, yeah, it's big. But I mean, again, if you're in a forest, I mean, have you been to big forests too? I mean,
oh yeah, yeah.
It's hard to get scale when you're looking out into the in betweens of those trees.
Yeah, like Yosemite, you go to some of those kind of places.
Yeah, well, even in Wayne National Forest.
Yeah,
that's a big forest. It's beautiful.
Oh yeah, huge. So let's get into the Minerva Monster.
Okay.
So one of our sources for the Minerva Monster is shout out to Seth Breedlove and Small Town Monsters. They make these awesome documentaries about cryptids, and a lot of it's regional here to Ohio. Seth is from Wadsworth, so another Ohio guy putting out awesome content. Would love what the guys from Small Town Monsters are doing. Would love to connect with you guys. So we checked out his Minerva Monster Bigfoot of Ohio documentary. Really well done. Great stuff. And he interviews a ton of people from this 1978, which really started in 1978 with this Caton family.
Yeah, it kicked it off.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you want to intro this?
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Bob. Take it.
I was, again.
This is good.
These are kind of, again, I've heard the terms and names and, never really dug in quite as deep as this. So, I mean, I was sitting there scratching my head a few times like, this is pretty wild. But
it's pretty wild. I mean, there's this Barbara Mudrick Galloway. She's from the Akron Beacon Journal, and she reported on this story in the Akron newspaper.
Yeah.
And
Deputy Sheriff Jim Shannon.
Take it away.
On August 21st, 1978, there was a police report in Paris Township, and the reporting officer received a call to contact the complainant at her residence regarding a large animal in her yard. And so this is Mrs. Caton. And she told the officer for the past month they had been plagued with some type of hairy beast around their residence. Okay, let's stop there. So you've been plagued by it. What do you do from there if you're the sheriff? You're getting this first now. What are you thinking? Oh, a hairy beast. So are there bear around that time?
Yeah, so
1978.
He's a sheriff, which means he's responsible for the whole county.
Right.
So he's not necessarily, in the town of Minerva all the time, which this Caton family got to know the Sheriff Jim
Shannon.
Sheriff Jim Shannon, and over time, because of these Bigfoot sightings, they got to know this guy because he was coming out to the property, and Jim Shannon had written up a police report.
Yeah.
And you can look that up. His report is public knowledge.
Yeah.
And
He said he got there and she was waiting by the door distressed.
Yep.
And what was it? A
Very
strong
out.
smell of ammonia.
Yep.
So we're getting a foul odor already. And
which is common with the Ohio Bigfoot, kind of like the skunk ape down in Florida and Louisiana. And
well, I think Sasquatch in general is known throughout lore to smell. Yeah, I mean, again, man, look at that hair.